Hello and welcome to Henderson Hashtag. I'm your host, Kiana Waits, and with us today we have Wyatt Thomas to tell us about his favorite football team, the Arkansas Razorbacks. So tell us about when you first became a football fan.
I've pretty much been a football fan my entire life. My grandpa, he's a lifelong fan, so it just kind of ran through to me.
All right, so were you ever able to attend any Razorback games when you were a kid?
Yes, I've been to about 20 games. Great, best thing, my favorite thing to do.
Wow, so when did you go see your first game?
I was probably about 8 years old. I went with my dad, grandpa, and grandma in Little Rock.
Wow, so what made you want to become a big Arkansas fan? Since there's so many teams in Arkansas, what stuck out to you the most?
Just the rich history it had, and then, of course, my grandpa being such a huge fan kind of led me along the way.
Do you play football yourself?
I did in high school, yes.
Okay, all right. Does any of your family members play football? Did you follow in their footsteps?
My grandpa played, but he left high school in 10th grade. So.
Okay. So back to the Razorbacks, do you have any favorite players or any that stick out to you?
My favorite player is Matt Jones. He played quarterback from 2000 to 2004. He was, in my opinion, the best Razorback to ever play football.
So you said that's the best one to you. So what makes him the best to you?
No other team could prepare for him. You know, coaches say prepare, 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 but you just couldn't. He was too fast, he was too athletic. They just couldn't do anything to stop him.
So when did you become a fan of his? How old were you?
It was probably a little after he graduated, probably like 06 or so, just because I was 4 years old when he was playing. So I went back and watched him play.
You watched his both professional and high school or college or?
I watched his high school. He didn't have much of a professional, career. He was only in the NFL for about 3 years.
Okay, what team did he play for in the NFL?
He played for the Jaguars, and he was a practice squad member of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Wow, interesting. So what loses or hits do you have as far as with your favorites or non-favorites of the team?
I'm sorry, what?
What are your favorites or non-favorites about the team?
Well, right now my non-favorite's definitely losing. There's been a lot of that going on recently. But my favorite is you can still go to a game, and at least the first quarter, there's going to be a bunch of fans there screaming, hollering, rooting them on.
So I understand that you want to be a head coach. What makes you want to do that?
Just loving the Razorbacks my whole life, and the money's not bad either.
Okay. Is that your major here at Henderson?
No, I'm an accounting major, actually.
Oh, interesting. So how do you plan to transition into being a head coach?
Start out at the high school level and teach like an accounting class or maybe like an upper level math class, and then eventually just try to work my way up.
Okay. So you said you're an accounting major. So how do you think that will tie into you want to be a head coach? Do you plan on doing that right after you graduate or kind of getting into the field?
I'm going to see how it goes. You know, I might end up changing my major. I don't know where life's going to take you.
What's your classification?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay. Have you had any hands-on experience with maybe coaching Little League games or even on a college level?
I have not, but I played football for 10 years, so I was around the coaches a lot.
Have you had any interest in playing here?
If I could, I would, for sure, yes.
Okay. Have you ever tried out maybe?
No.
Are you in any connection with any of the maybe coaches here that may be looking to mentoring you or showing you the ropes?
If I was to try to find somebody, I'd probably have to go to my high school coaches. They've kind of spread out since we left, so there's about 4 of them are head coaches at different high schools, so I could talk to them.
Great. All right. So back to the Razorbacks. You said you saw your first game when you were little. You know, what was the most memorable moment you had watching that game?
Well, we started out, we got there early, went in about an hour early probably, and they'd practice PATs and field goals and stuff, and there weren't very many fans there, so you could just try to catch the balls flying in.
Oh, wow.
And so that was pretty fun. My grandpa would catch them and let me throw them back down to the field. And then, funnel cake's always a staple of going to a Razorback game. And just, the excitement of the crowd, just everybody screaming in unison for the team.
Wow. Well, I'm pretty sure you had such a good time as a kid. We're just going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with Henderson Hashtag.
I don't know what you do in your spare time, but I watch HTV. I can even watch it here. Even in here.
Here. Here. Even way up here.
Here too. Here, 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 and even here. And here. That's because Henderson Television has a YouTube account Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Check us out.
Hi, and welcome back to Henderson Hashtag. Again, I'm your host, Kiana Waits. Now that we talked about the Razorback team, let's talk a little about your favorite pro team. So what is your favorite pro ball team?
Oh, the Dallas Cowboys.
And why do they stick out to you the most?
Geographically, they're the closest to home, so that kind of is the reason I gravitated towards them.
Okay, you mentioned geographically closer to home, and where are you from?
I'm from Monticello, but I lived in Hot Springs for the past 8 years.
Okay, so have you ever been to a Cowboy game?
I have not. I've been to the stadium a few times, but it was like during the summer. So.
Oh, was that a cool experience for you? How old were you?
I don't exactly remember, but I went to the old stadium before they tore it down, and then I've been to the new stadium twice since they built it.
Okay, so do you have any favorite players on the team?
Jason Witten, he plays tight end. He's been there for 15 years or so. He hasn't missed a game in 15 years.
Wow, so what makes him stick out to you outside the other players?
Just his toughness and his consistency as a player. Like, he never puts up super flashy numbers like some guys will, but he's always going to be there second or third in catches and touchdowns and yards.
Okay, so what's been some of the most iconic moments that the Cowboys have had?
Winning 3 Super Bowls in the 90s to solidify their second dynasty was definitely a big one. And there hasn't been a ton of big moments in my lifetime.
Well, I know that my family are big Cowboy fans, and I know that they die hard about the 90s, how they were definitely back-to-back Super Bowl winners. And I know recently they were very close to getting a Super Bowl. How'd you feel about that last point in the game where they were basically out by a field goal?
It's a tough loss, like always, but there's always the next year.
Did you stay strong with that team, or did you kind of lose your faith that, no, they weren't going to make it?
I keep with the Cowboys. I've never really had anybody else as my favorite team besides the Cowboys.
Okay, so have you been a Cowboy fan longer than a Razorback fan, or the other way around?
No, I've been a Razorback fan much longer. My grandpa, he isn't much into NFL football, so I didn't get exposed to NFL football till a little later on in life.
Okay, so what did expose you to NFL football?
My friends at school and playing Madden.
Madden, okay. So you own a game system. How often do you play?
Every few days.
Okay. Do you have any other football players that maybe stick out to you outside your favorite?
Yeah, there's a lot. Luke Kuechly plays middle linebacker for the Carolina Panthers, and he's a pretty young guy. He's been in the NFL about 5 years, and he's a tackling machine.
Wow. So what are your thoughts right now on the current team compared to the 90s team where they definitely had the Super Bowl wins?
There's definitely the potential to recreate the 90s, but they just have to get over all the suspensions and team violations and just get everybody straightened up.
Oh, suspensions and violations. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Ezekiel Elliott is the running back for the Cowboys. He got drafted 2 years ago,
Okay.
and he led the NFL in rushing yards last year. He was accused of hitting his ex-girlfriend, but she dropped all the charges, and then there's just been pretty much a 1.5 year long process of suspending him and unsuspending him. He was suspended Thursday of last week, and they unsuspended him Friday so he could play Sunday, and he's suspended again now.
Wow. Well, do you think that will hinder them playing this year?
It definitely will. It's a 6-game suspension if it holds up, so that's a good chunk of the season he's going to miss, and it might end up going into the playoffs if they keep going back and forth.
Wow. Well, I definitely learn something new every day. So back to the 90s and the glory days. What stuck out to you the most about those Super Bowl wins?
Really the Cowboys versus the 49ers is an iconic matchup. In the 90s, you got Joe Montana versus Troy Aikman. You got Michael Irvin. You got Deion Sanders playing for both teams at different points, winning the Super Bowl with both of them. So it's just a really good rivalry to watch.
Wow. How long has this rivalry been going on?
It really probably started in the 90s because they both won 3 each in the 90s. So it was pretty competitive to who was the best team. And so it's probably the 90s, yeah.
All right. So do you have any final thoughts or feelings about the Cowboys or Razorbacks?
There's hope for the Cowboys this season. The Razorbacks, not so much.
Definitely. Let's go Cowboys. So that's all we have for this segment. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you join in next time. Again, I'm your host, Kiana Waits. Thanks for watching.